California's Gold is produced in association with KCET Los Angeles and is seen statewide on California Public Television. This series is endorsed by the California Teachers Association, the California School Boards Association, and the California Library Association.
California's Gold is sponsored by Sempra Energy, making California brighter for over 100 years.
Hi, I'm Huell Howser, and right now we have come to a place that very few people ever have the opportunity to visit. Now, I hope you're not afraid of heights. If you are, you better hold on, because we have come to the very top of the world-famous Golden Gate Bridge here in San Francisco. Now, this has to be the most beautiful bridge in the world. In fact, when most people think of California, especially when they think of San Francisco, they think of this bridge. When I moved to California from my native Tennessee 15 years ago, this bridge was one of the first places I wanted to visit. Of course, what makes the bridge interesting is that it is not part of the natural landscape of California. It's only been open for traffic since 1937. California is the most populated state in the country. It is filled with big, beautiful cities like San Francisco. But what makes this state so unusual and so fascinating to me is that within a couple of hours driving time from any one of these huge cities, you can be right out in the middle of some of the most natural, scenic beauty that you'll find anywhere in the country. So what we're going to do on this particular adventure is visit 4 of those beautiful natural places that are unique to California. They're part of California's Gold, part of what makes this state so special. And if you're ready to climb on down off this bridge with me, we can start this journey together. This journey in search of California's Gold. It's part of the rites of spring in Southern California. Loading up the car with family or friends and heading out for the fields. From horizon to horizon, huge fields of California poppies, literally as far as the eye can see. Welcome to the Antelope Valley California Poppy Preserve, 1,700 acres of protected land located about 75 miles northeast of downtown LA. Now, this is on the fringe of the Mojave Desert, and most of the time it's dry and brown grassland. But every springtime, from about March to mid-May, the desert comes alive, pouring out this bright, almost fluorescent color. Sitting out amongst the poppies.
This is incredible.
Isn't it?
Just
this is
incredible
what California
today.
is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wild and beautiful.
I never expected a sight quite like this.
Well, what did you expect?
Well, not this large an area. Oh, it's beautiful. Breathtaking.
I have some seeds at home, which I'm going home to put them right away on the ground. They're magnificent.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you think your yard someday is going to
Well,
look like
I hope
this?
so. At least one of my planters will have something. Oh, they're just absolutely gorgeous.
It's a nice way to spend an afternoon, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's great for the kids too. They'll hopefully appreciate it.
Now, you really think she appreciates these poppies?
No.
She can speak for herself.
She's got tears in her eyes.
We love nature and we love California for its beauty, and so we planned a trip to come up here today. And this is my son's birthday today, so this is how we're celebrating it. We thought we would let him run wild in a field of poppies.
Well, what a great way for him to spend his birthday.
Oh, it's absolutely gorgeous up here. The color saturation is beautiful.
at least it's something pretty in the desert. You know, a lot of people make fun of the desert and how dry it is, and they come out and see this, and they're all pretty surprised.
Yeah,
how beautiful it really is.
It is a joy to see all the flowers, you know, that God has created in abundance here. But this is just a short time of the year. The desert isn't always this pretty. The desert has a few brief seasons. Here in the high desert, it's the spring and the fall. But the summer's pretty warm, and these hills would be brown. And the winter, I mean, 3 months ago, we had several inches of snow here. Our elevation is close to 3,000 feet.
So this really is a miracle of springtime, isn't it?
Yes, it is. California springtime.
Now, do the real experts, the old hands at this, know which little dirt roads to take to get to the best places?
It looks like a lot of people know where.
Yeah, I thought you were bringing me to a secret place.
Oh, no.
I guess there is no such thing as a secret place anymore.
This is what I like about it, Huell. You top another knoll and you get another surprise. You know, it just goes on and on.
Look!
Just how many acres? Many hundred acres out there.
I don't believe this.
Isn't that magnificent?
I've never seen anything like that before in my life.
Annual poppy, just clear on his, well, it's 4 miles of it there.
Continuing our poppy adventure, I hooked up with Milt Stark, one of the locals who is a well-known writer and wildflower photographer. Milt took me down some of the back roads surrounding the Poppy Preserve to show me firsthand some of his favorite poppy fields. Is this a place that's perfect for poppies to grow?
Yes. In the 1960s, the state did a 5-year survey, and they concluded that the best place to have a preserve for the California poppy, the state flower, was right here in western part of Antelope Valley.
Why?
Because they're more dependable, they're a better color, they're darker. The Antelope Valley strain of the California poppy, they're just more spectacular. Mm-hmm. And this is a beautiful spot for it.
What is the fascination people have with poppies?
I think the brilliance of the blossom. I think the brilliance and the expanse of color. Just people's feeling for beauty. And a lot of people don't see this. They don't come out here, but the people that come out here, I get the feeling they have a sense of beauty, which these poppies stimulate. It's just magnificent. It's just startling. Most of them, of course, the orange, but you also have the yellow poppies, and once in a great while, you find the white ones.
So these are the same poppies, they're just 2 different colors.
They're a Schultzia californica, but they're a subspecies, probably. They could be a mutation, but...
Well, why are there so many orange ones and so few yellow ones?
That's one of the mysteries. I mean, when we established the Poppy Reserve, we hoped that there would be a lot of studying of the California poppy, because there's so many things we don't know about it. You know, it should be studied thoroughly by the botanists.
Now, next year, if we came out here, could there just as easily be a lot of yellow ones and very few orange ones?
No, there are always orange ones, but very few yellow and white. No, they're always orange like this.
Now, is this area always covered like this?
Not necessarily, no. There are areas over here that have had fields of poppy just like this in the past, and none today. And maybe in a couple of years, they'll be back.
And this place will be barren?
Yeah. Quite possible. I have no answer, Hugh. That's what needs to be studied. We need to know the answer.
Why is the poppy our state flower?
Because it's indigenous to California and little parts of Oregon, little parts of Arizona and Nevada, but it's so spectacular. I mean, what other flower would you pick out that is just as beautiful and as spectacular as this one? I mean, you just can't find one.
And these are wild, too.
Yes. That's an interesting thing. People will ask me, do they sow these with a helicopter? You know, no way. These are wild poppies that have been here for centuries and come back and come back and come back. No, man does not do this. This nature has done this.
It's one of my favorite California highways, good old 395, which cuts right up beside the magnificent Sierra Mountains and takes you through some beautiful scenery. You also pass through some great little towns like Big Pine, Independence, Lone Pine, and Bishop. Now we're heading for the Inyo National Forest to see something few people ever see. But before we got to our destination, we pulled off the road about 1.5 miles north of the community of Big Pine and met up with Keith Osborne from the National Forest Service. Keith had something very historic to show us.
Right in front of us here is a giant sequoia that was planted by Theodore Roosevelt.
President Roosevelt was out here?
That's right, yeah.
Doing what?
Well, President Roosevelt was an avid outdoorsman, and to show his interest in national lands, national parks, and so forth, he planted this tree right here on the corner, which is kind of our benchmark into Westgard Pass, which leads us into the White Mountains.
So we have a little plaque here. See, I've driven down this road a number of times,
right,
down 395, and never known or even seen this probably.
It's dedicated July 23rd, 1913.
Wow. Teddy Roosevelt.
That's right.
And look how it's grown, and look how beautiful it is.
It's almost a perfect shape.
Do you trim it to look like this?
No. That's actually pretty common for a sequoia in its early age. This is not too old, as you can see. These grow up to be about 3,000 years old, and this one is under 100 right now.
Wow,
so,
it's a beautiful tree. Well, Teddy Roosevelt was here, and if it was good enough for Teddy Roosevelt, it's good enough for us.
That's right.
Well, let's head on out, and
okay,
we're in our vehicle, and we'll just, since we don't know where we're going, we'll just follow you.
Sounds good.
Although going down this little road, I don't know how we can get lost. We're off. And off we were, heading out across some terrain that seemed to change every few minutes. First, there was open country. Then the road got windy and hilly. Then we were driving through an area with a lot of rocks on both sides. And then we finally reached the high country, over 9,000 feet up. In fact, this area is only open 4 months a year. The rest of the time, it's completely snowed in. We were definitely heading somewhere off the beaten track. Okay, we have gone as far as we can go by vehicle. We have now reached the Discovery Trail. Those are the White Mountains in front of us. And we're going to go the last couple of miles by foot.
That's right. We're almost there. Just stick with me, Huell. I'll take you right up to our final destination here.
So we're almost there.
Yes.
I feel like we have been on a journey, a long journey to get here.
No, we're real close.
But it's going to be worth it, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Now, I've been on a lot of hikes in my life, but I don't think I have ever seen a view quite as spectacular as this one. You live up here. Do you ever get tired of looking at this?
No way. This is fantastic, and I really can't remember it being this beautiful. The heavy rainfall we had this year has really made the snowfall on the Sierra really come out, and it is truly beautiful.
I'll tell you what, I'm also out of breath. We're at 9,000 feet. There's no air up here.
Actually, no. We're up at 10,100 feet. So
no wonder.
Yeah.
So it's not that I'm out of shape. There's just no oxygen, right?
That's right. There's quite a bit less oxygen up here, and because this is a dry mountain range, that even compounds the problem more. So,
because we may have to stop it. Let's stop and rest for just a minute, and Louis, just look at this view with us out here. This is a nice place to rest and catch our breath. Well, we are finally here.
Yeah, Huell, we are. This is Shulman Grove in the ancient bristlecone pine forest. And in case anybody's wondering what makes this place so special, is it's home to the oldest continuous living things on the planet Earth.
Now, when you say these are the oldest continuously living things on the planet Earth, how old are they? How old is this tree?
Well, this tree, I don't know its exact age, Huell, but my guess would be it's over 3,000 years old at least.
Really?
Yes.
How do you tell that? Are there rings on the trees? Or?
Yeah, we do a coring process with a Swedish increment bore where we core into the tree And we're able to take out a small cylinder of the inner tree, count the rings, and determine its age. And we can do all of this without actually harming the tree.
Yeah. How can trees live 3,000 years?
Well, that's a very special story, and it's unique to the bristlecones. Part of it is the soil that we're standing on.
There is no soil. It's all rocks.
That's right. This rocky soil here is called dolomite, and it's a calcium magnesium carbonate. It's originated from the bottom of an ocean floor, believe it or not. And as these mountains were formed, it was uplifted and brought to this elevation. And it provides a special soil or growing condition for these trees. It's an alkaline soil, believe it or not.
A lot of them look like they've been burned or they've been struck by lightning. That's what it is, right?
Some of them have, and sometimes the bark just gives that appearance. As it's been weathered by blowing ice and snow and so forth, it gives that kind of burned, dark appearance to the wood.
Very strange, eerie-looking trees.
Yes, almost like they were sculpted. It's a very dry mountain range, and these trees are adapted to drought conditions. And because of that, they grow very, very, very slowly and develop a very resinous wood that is resistant to insects and decay.
So this is hardwood.
Very hardwood, yes.
Now, is this tree dead?
This tree is dead, yes.
I don't see any green on it at all.
Yeah. And the dead trees provide really something special to the area as well, because scientists have been studying the dead trees, working a chronology back, studying climate and dating archaeological sites using this old wood.
So these trees up here are all green. They're all still alive.
That's correct.
And they're all mixed in with the dead ones. Where is the oldest bristlecone pine tree? Can you show that one to us?
No, I can't show that one to you, unfortunately. It is here at Shulman Grove. It's on the Methuselah Trail, but we don't mark it. It's 4,722 years. And
4,722 years. You got it down to the year.
To the year, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, and because of in honor of its great age, we don't mark it just to keep it.
Well, you don't want anybody to know.
Yes, yes.
Boy, look at this again. It's such a wonderful juxtaposition. These 2,000, 3,000, 4,000-year-old trees looking out across to the Sierra with the glaciers in them.
Yes.
And realizing that it's looked like this, standing right here for 4,000 years.
That's right.
At least.
Yes. Yeah, it's a real contrast looking across to the Sierra and how wet it is over there, and then how dry it is here. It really gives you.
But don't you? I thought you got 4 feet of snow here every year.
We do, but that's all. It averages out to be about 12 inches of rainfall a year.
Oh, I got you.
So all of these trees are drought adapted.
Now, what is this?
Isn't this great? Right off the trail is a young bristlecone. Probably,
this is a bristlecone.
Yeah, only about 50 or 60 years old. But you can see it's got the 5 needles that all bristlecones have, and starting to get that shape that's pretty...
It looks like a little Christmas tree.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's so interesting because of the contrast between this young little bristlecone and the old stuff that is so twisted and gnarled and aged.
Yeah. What's amazing is just the small size, but 4 feet tall probably, and still quite old, 50, 60 years old in terms of the...
How much do these things grow a year? Do you know? Have you figured that out?
Well, it depends upon where they grow.
Yeah.
On a slope like this probably may only grow an inch, 2 inches a year. So,
wow, so it's going to be a while.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We'll be long gone, and someday somebody will be walking along here looking at this one all twisted and gnarled, the same way we've been looking at the others.
Yes.
Wow, look at that. A little baby bristlecone, only 50 years old. And here now there are little pine cones on here.
That's right.
Are these, is this a young bristlecone?
It's a fairly young bristlecone.
This one is just a couple of 100 years old.
That's probably true.
So they've got little pine cones on.
Yeah, these pine cones, unlike most pine trees, these cones stay on the tree for 3 years before they mature and fall. So.
Okay, so here's one that's, whoa, here's one that's fallen off.
Yeah, in fact, if you take this cone and you run it between your hands, you'll discover why these trees are called bristlecones.
What happens? Here, hold my mic. Like this?
You feel those bristles?
Yeah. Yeah, they're sticky. Now, can I take this home as a souvenir?
Absolutely not. And that's really an important thing to mention. This is a botanical area. It was designated by Congress as such, and because of that designation, it's protected. Nothing can be taken out. No wood or plants or rocks or the pine cones can be taken.
Not even a single pine cone.
That's correct.
Okay, I'm going to put it, I'm also going to fall off the mountain.
Right.
I'm going to put it back kind of where I found it.
Okay, great.
And I'm clean. I'm not carrying a single piece of wood with me.
That's good.
You know, you can say that a tree is a couple of thousand years old.
Yeah.
But to actually be standing next to something that is alive,
yes,
from nature, that has been sitting right here on this rocky mountain,
right,
for 3,000 years,
yes,
growing.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I mean, I don't know whether this is going to translate on the air or not, but
right,
it's quite an experience.
Oh, yes, it really is. Just to be able to visit the forest, to sit down next to these things, and just to reach out, touch them, and to feel that if they could speak and what they could tell us about history and so forth, it's just an amazing concept.
Leaving the White Mountains and the magnificent old bristlecone pines, we got back on Highway 395 heading north, and then turned off on Route 120, which is known as Tioga Pass. We were there on a picture-perfect day. This has to be one of the prettiest drives in all of California. Our destination was in Yosemite National Park, specifically in an area known as Tuolumne Meadows. We pulled into the Tuolumne Meadows Lodge late afternoon and spent the night in tent cabins. Good night. Well, after a great night's sleep in our tent, it's now about 7 o'clock the next morning. We're here at the Tuolumne Meadows stables. Lots of mules here. All of them up bright and early this morning. A beautiful morning, a great day, and this is what we're going to be going on right here. Now, the mules didn't look too excited about it, but we were excited, putting on our helmets, which are now required for safety reasons, putting on our sunscreen because we were high up, over 8,500 feet, and the sun was bright. And finally, saddling up and making sure the stirrups were adjusted just right. You see, in order to get to our ultimate destination, we were traveling by mule pack train, which was a first for me. We were heading 9 miles back, deep into the park. And to get there, our guides from the Tuolumne Meadows stables took us through some of the most beautiful country on the face of the earth. That's what you see. That's the kind of stuff you see when you're on the trail in Yosemite. Now, I am amazed at how sure-footed these mules are. Is that because they know the way?
Well, it's partly because of that, but it's mostly just because the mules are like our four-wheel drive vehicles. They're rough, they're made for the mountains, and they are used to all the rocky trails.
Wow. Because I'm not doing anything. My mule is just following your horse, and I'm not pulling on the reins or doing anything.
Well, that's why we use mules for you guys, and I ride a horse.
This is what you call an easy ride. And a tight fit. Now watch these mules go down these steps. It's an amazing thing. They don't miss a beat, and we're going straight down. I don't know how they do it, but none of them have tripped all day long. And we're going straight down these rocks. This is the most spectacular view I think I've ever seen in my whole life, looking out over here. Look at this. This is nature. Come on, Clarabelle. Up the hill. Whoa! Sheridan, you suggested we stop here to water the horses and mules, and I can see why. This is absolutely magnificent. It's like a postcard.
Isn't it? It really is like a postcard. It gives you such a beautiful view of the Cathedral Range. You can notice Echo Peaks, and kind of in the distance is Cathedral Peaks. This is one of the loveliest shots in the whole park, I believe.
Are the mules happy to be stopped here with this fresh water and the...
Oh, certainly, certainly.
I mean, let's talk about the mules just a little bit, because they're rather remarkable animals.
They certainly are, and they really belong up in this high country. They're really kind of this is their home.
Now, what do you mean belong up here? Because, you know, I've been amazed at how they operate on these narrow little rocky paths and all of that.
Yeah, they're much better than horses, actually, and even though they have each one has a different temperament, as you've certainly noticed. Each of your mules is a little bit different, but whenever they get in trouble, they have a lot of common sense, and that's a real important thing up here in this country. Sometimes things will happen to them where they'll maybe fall over in the snow or something and get caught in ropes, and they'll just wait, whereas a horse will explode and be a real problem for you and perhaps kill himself and hurt you.
Now, let's talk a little bit about Clarabelle, because Clarabelle has been a pretty good mule so far, but she stops and eats whenever she wants to.
That's right. Well, one of the things, she's a big mule and she's used to getting her way, and so I've noticed that you've been showing her that you're pretty big too and controlling her.
No, I'm not. She's been doing whatever she darn well pleases.
Well, yeah, that's probably somewhat true, yeah.
Well, when we started up again after watering our mules, we still had about 3 more miles to go before we reached our final destination. A 3-hour journey that took us through all kinds of terrain, like this open area of solid rock. And then we went up and down narrow rocky trails and across fast-flowing streams. All of this to get to a very special place in the park, a place that few people ever visit. And as soon as we got there, I knew the long mule trip had been worth it. I'm so anxious to see this. Oh, wow. And there it is, Louis. What we've come all this way to see, which is really pretty spectacular. What are we looking at? What are we looking at?
Well, we've made it to LeConte Falls, which is in the Grand Canyon of the Tuolumne River.
And I guess all of this...
This is still the Falls Ridge. Yep, we're looking right down to it. It's heading towards Hetch Hetchy, which holds San Francisco's water. And this falls was named after a University of Berkeley professor by the name of Joseph LeConte, who came up here with a lot of trips. And the water wheel action that you see happening here is caused by the water hitting a rock and almost backfiring and coming around and forming that circular motion.
So that's what we're really here to see, is the water wheel that's coming up there.
And ironically, the water wheels here at LeConte are bigger than at the actual Water Wheel Falls, which is about 1 mile down the road.
Really?
You can see that it's sort of dipping down a little bit. The water's coming down, and then it's hitting a rock inside of a dip, and it's firing back up.
Yeah.
So it's coming up and just really being propelled straight up and a little backwards, so it curls.
So you got one up here.
One here.
Way up there you've got one.
2 here. 2 here. Maybe
2
almost
here.
3.
Wow. Now how slippery is it out here?
Well, I'll tell you what. You're not going to get me out there, that's for sure. That would be a one-way ride.
Well, no,
the camera would be following.
We have kind of an adventure. We have kind of an adventure series here.
Oh, I see. I see. Hard to get to places, huh? So how do you get to them, though, is the question.
Because this is really, I mean, once you started,
that would be it.
You'd end up
in Hetch Hetchy.
Down there.
That's right. You'd probably come out of a faucet in San Francisco somewhere.
That's great. Now, are there fish in there?
You bet. There are a lot of trout.
Coming over the...
You can see them, watch. But, oh no. Sometimes you can.
What kind of fish?
Trout. A lot of brown trout and occasional rainbows. The best fishing here, which is, a lot of people don't know that, but the flat areas are not the best places to fish. It's down in some of these little pools, like right down below, where people really catch the fish.
Well, we've spotted a couple down here who look like they're just kind of sitting here and enjoying it all. What are you doing here today?
Well, we're taking a break, coming out for a couple of nights, going backpacking.
Have you ever been here before?
Nope, never have.
What do you think about it?
It's great. Picked a good year to come.
Yeah, lots of water. You know, I'm wondering how this is going to translate to people at home, whether they're going to be able to tell how absolutely wonderful it is here.
I know the grandeur is pretty hard to capture when you're at home watching on a TV screen.
Yeah.
You really have to be here and see all the cliffs and put it all in perspective. The amount of water coming here is incredible.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just this year or whether it's always like
Well,
this.
you're wearing a hat that says that's incredible.
Yeah, maybe that says it all.
What do you think when you sit here and look out like this?
Well, I feel pretty lucky to be here, for one thing. I'm fortunate I can get here on my own 2 feet and really enjoy it. It's wonderful that it's been set aside for all of us to enjoy, and we live in a fabulous, fabulous state.
Yeah.
Beautiful part of the country to be in.
Yeah.
I love it.
What do you think about this place? When you're here, do you wish more people could come and see this for themselves? Or are you glad that it's so hard to get to that not many people do get here? Be honest.
That's a toughie.
Yeah.
I think I'm glad it's hard to get to. I mean, it's a beautiful thing, and you're going to take it back so people at home can see. But I think the reward of working to get here, hiking, getting a few blisters on your feet, riding, whatever way you get here, I think it's a reward to see it. I don't know. How do you feel, Jeff?
What do you think?
It's a lot more special than if the road came down right here and you pulled off and looked out your window, for sure.
Yeah.
And pretty much everyone can get here, too. And so
well, they just have to make an effort.
You just got to make the effort, that's right.
So if we had been standing here at least hundreds of years ago, looking out here like this, it would have looked exactly the way it looks right now.
Pretty much.
I mean, you don't see anything made by man around here.
That's right. That's one of the things I really marvel about being in this high country. The fact that someone had the presence of mind to create parks, taking beautiful places and protecting them so that they'd be here for us. I think that's a pretty amazing thing that some people had the foresight. I guess that's why John Muir is so heroized here by almost everyone. Cause
you think he stood kind of where we're standing right now and looked up here?
I'm sure, and he said, let's just protect this environment right here, yeah. Because you can imagine we'd have condos all up and down here. I'd sure live in one if I could.
No condos.
No, it's so spectacular. It's wonderful to come here every year and see the same thing. Nobody's logged anything, nobody's done anything to change it, and that's one of the magical qualities about this place, I would say.
Now, do you think the people who come out here with you on the pack mule trains that you run, leave here with something that they maybe didn't have when they started out?
I think they do. I think there's a lot of people that don't know what they're coming for. Like you said before, what are they coming for? And I think a lot of people don't know at all, and that way they have no expectations, and they can leave with a piece of something for themselves.
Yeah.
There's a lot to learn out here, and there's a lot of space, there's a lot of space to think and be with nature. It's a good experience.
Back on Highway 395, not that far from Yosemite, our last destination on this adventure is a lake that is beautiful and strange. It's one of the oldest lakes in North America, over 700,000 years old. An ancient lake that's part of what used to be a huge ancient sea. It's a lake with no outlet. Its water is alkaline, 3 times saltier than the Pacific Ocean. And its landscape in places is like something from another planet. In fact, upon seeing it for the first time, Mark Twain called it California's Dead Sea. Well, this isn't the Dead Sea. This is Mono Lake, located in the eastern Sierra Mountains, and it's one of California's true treasures. And as you'll discover, a visit to Mono Lake is truly an adventure you'll never forget. Now, here are the famous flies I've been hearing about. so much.
Right.
And this is kind of a weird feeling to be walking in a swarm of, I don't know whether the camera can pick this up or not. Look at them over here. They're so thick. Look at this. What is the story
Did you
here?
notice there's like a force field that keeps them away from you? They just stay a certain distance. When the birds come to eat these, they'll be walking right through like this, and the flies move away, but every so often the beak is quicker than the fly. This is food for a lot of birds. These are called brine flies or alkali flies, and they live in the water of the lake. They go underwater to lay their eggs, and the eggs hatch into a larva. There's a pupa stage, and then the flies are on the shore. And isn't it nice that they don't like people?
So they never get on people.
I think they think people are.
This is amazing.
I think they think people are yucky and they don't want to touch them. They don't want us to touch them. You know,
now, are they unique to Mono Lake?
No, brine flies are found in other areas, but this kind of fly is really only found abundantly in one other lake, one in Oregon called the Ebert Lake.
And what is their beneficial? I mean, you know, what do they do?
They fit into the food chain here. If you look at the birds out here, the birds are pecking, and then they're either eating flies themselves or the shrimp that are in the lake, the brine shrimp. And they eat the birds eat the adult flies. They also eat the fly larvae that's in the water swimming, the little wormy guys.
Wow. Look at this. You can hear them, but they won't light on you at all. This is very strange, but it's all part of the chain.
Yeah, all part of the very simple but unique food chain at Mono Lake. We have no fish here. The water is too salty and too alkaline for fish. And we really only have two kinds of animal forms. We have the shrimp and the fly, and that is it that lives in the water. But they are incredibly abundant. Though there aren't very many kinds, they're enormous quantity, and that's why there's over 1 million birds that can come and feed on the food that's in the lake.
So the birds would eat these flies or the shrimp that are out there?
That's right.
Where are the shrimp? Could we see the shrimp from here?
Well, yes. I think we need to get into some cleaner water where we can see into the bottom better, where there isn't so much soap suds. This is, by the way, this isn't pollution. This is soap from the water of the lake. This lake has...
What do you mean, soap?
Well, this lake, if you want the recipe for Mono Lake, you'd put in salt in water, but also baking soda, lots and lots of sodium bicarbonate, that stuff we cook with, and that sometimes people wash in, and people actually used to come and wash in Mono Lake sometimes. There's a lot of baking soda here. So when the wind makes waves, we get soap suds.
Now, what if I tasted this water right now?
Go ahead. If you've got a good palate, you should be able to taste the salt and that bitter baking soda taste.
See, I can't taste the salt at all. I thought it was going to be real salty.
I'll reach out farther. And there's probably some fresh water. We had a lot of rain yesterday. There's a fresh water layer. There. There's
the salt.
We had rain yesterday, so there's a freshwater layer that's lighter than the salt water that's floating on top.
What are you laughing about? Well, look at this man. What are you laughing about back here? What are you laughing about?
You couldn't taste the salt.
Have you tasted it?
Have you tasted it yet?
No.
You should. It's
well, put your finger in there and let me laugh at you. See, this has got a real...
Not bad.
This is really salty. I saw a chart somewhere that said this is saltier than the ocean.
It's about almost 3 times as salty as the ocean today.
Now this is the tufa.
Right. And what's a tufa is a common question.
What is it? Well, I mean, at first glance, it looks like we're standing on the moon. This is the most interesting landscape I think I've ever seen, and I guess the question does beg itself, what is this stuff?
It all goes back to the water in the lake, this strange water with the minerals in it. Tufa is a formation where springs, wherever you see these tufa, there were springs coming out of the ground, and the lake covered this area up, and a reaction occurred between the spring water and the lake water. So
between the salt water and the fresh water.
That's right. The fresh water has some calcium. The salt water has the baking soda, the carbonates, and this is calcium carbonate. And it builds up around the springs and grows upwards because the fresh water is trying to get up on top of the salt water to float on top of it. It's lighter, and so it heads that way.
So all of this used to be completely covered.
to
water.
There's two things you know wherever you see a tufa, that had to have been, Mono Lake had to have been there, and then that other source of water, the fresh water, also had to have been coming up in that same area.
Well, this is certainly spectacular, and you can see it not only here on land, but there's some of it sticking up out of the water as well.
We've done some diving out there, and some of those are probably in 30 feet of water, so that the tower itself is maybe 50, 60 feet tall from the bottom.
Wait a minute, I guess I better leave my tufa here.
Yeah, we should
don't want to.
Why don't we go this way?
Take
right here.
Okay, we're going to wander through the tufa and go to your favorite spot?
Yeah, you could say that. I've got a few other favorites that I don't take everybody to. But...
Oh, look. Look at this.
Now, I want you to imagine this underwater. We're going to, like you're snorkeling or scuba diving through here, and turn it all blue and make brine shrimp be swimming around, take the bushes away, and think about that. And this is just an incredible forest.
So all of this was underwater, and like you say, there were shrimp swimming all around through it.
And
look at these things.
And everywhere here there would be a spring. There'd be a freshwater spring heading up towards the top of the lake through the salt water.
Wait a minute. You mean the water would actually literally be coming out of these formations?
Yes, that's how they form. Through the inside, the water would come out at the top and add more, and then it will come around on the outside too and add on to the outside, but primarily growing upwards right at that point.
Now, does this mean there's water down there now? Springs that just...
As we look into the shoreline now, we find that the spring water, a lot of it, the springs are still there, but they're out under the lake now. Instead of coming up here, they wait until we get under the lake water and come out there.
Look at this one. Now, how fragile is this?
It's fragile enough that I wouldn't want anybody to try to climb it. It would break it. But it's been sitting here for 10 years, and we've been monitoring these for that long, and they're doing okay in the weather. They
look like stalactites.
Yes, or stalagmites.
I guess you hear stalagmites coming up and stalactites.
Chemically, they're the same, calcium carbonate, but the process is different in a cave when these drips form and form.
Look at all this. This just goes on and on and on as far as you can see. This has to be what everybody comments on the most.
This Tufa area is, I think, one of the most photographed areas at the lake, and most of the photography you see, I think, comes from this area. But there are other spots to explore, and we like people to know that when you come, see the South Tufa area, and then take off on your own and find some of these other spots that are worth finding. And there's some incredible discoveries waiting out there.
Are we going to discover any of them today?
Well, I don't know.
And look, here's a big old piece of tufa right here. It's really not that heavy, is it? I mean, it's heavy.
Sort of like concrete, maybe.
It's definitely not porous.
No,
I mean, it's not
porous.
that light.
It varies. It varies. Yeah.
And here's the top of one that must have just
fallen
off.
Wow. Giant tubes of cemented cauliflower, one writer called these. Mark Twain, I think he just compared them to concrete. He was here in the 1860s. And if you read the book Roughing It, he described seeing tufa at Mono Lake at intervals around the shore. Now, most of these tufa were underwater then, but he saw some tufa because he was here after a drought, at the end of about a 10-year drought.
Back in the 1800s?
Yes, right, in the 1860s.
The next part of our Mono Lake adventure took us out on the lake itself, courtesy of Larry Ford, a naturalist with the U.S. Forest Service. Now, this gave me the opportunity for an up-close and personal look at some of the estimated 4 trillion tiny little brine shrimp which call Mono Lake home. Look at this. There you go. You got 3 of them right there. Just swimming around.
That's a mated pair.
They're mating?
They're mating.
In my hand?
In your hand.
Just my luck to pick up a pair of mating brine shrimp. Heading back to shore, Larry carefully navigated the boat through some submerged tufa, which gave me a chance to actually touch one. What does that feel like? Is it slimy? Is it...
Well, one way to find out, isn't there?
Well, I'm just curious as to what it's gonna. It's got a lot of crystals in it. It's reflecting in the water. Oh yeah. It's got a crystal feel to it. I didn't know they had that crystal stuff in there.
Right. It's a.
Look, it's reflecting in the light. And they're the ever-present brine shrimp all around it. Wow. See, it's kind of giving away a little bit under my hand. It's kind of a soft, it's still soft.
It's a soft material, yeah.
Janet, in addition to being an absolutely beautiful lake to look at, this lake is a home to a lot of different kind of birds, and since you are the bird lady around here, tell us a little bit about the birds, starting, I guess, with the gulls who are all around us right now.
Right. The gulls are the most common sight, especially in the summertime, and they're California gulls. There's lots of different kinds of gulls in California, but this particular species is called the California gull. And about 90% of this particular bird, they live along the coast, and they fly over here to Mono Lake to nest here, 90% of the population. So chances are, if you see a bird along the California coast that's a California gull, it will have been born at Mono Lake.
It will have been born right here.
And a lot of people are real surprised to see gulls up in the mountains at high altitude. They fly around up at Bodie and the high peaks, and they just, that's how they're set up to deal with their nesting, is to come inland.
Now, the gulls are just here during the summer to nest?
Well, it's always a sign of spring when the first gull comes, which is usually sometime late March, early April.
Now, how many gulls come here?
About 50,000 adult gulls.
50,000.
And they come because of this incredible food supply. The lake is just like a bowl of soup for them in this time of year. There's shrimp. You can see if they're putting their beaks in kind of far, like that one there.
Yeah, they look like they're happy gulls out there.
They are.
Well-fed, happy, fat gulls.
Eating lots of shrimp and flies.
Now, when we're not talking about gulls, though, we're talking about a lot of other birds here.
Right, the gulls are the most visible, but actually the most numerous bird that comes to Mono Lake is the eared grebe, which is a little bird. It looks kind of like a little black duck. You see it usually kind of far out on the lake. And the reason they're called eared grebes is in breeding plumage, they have little tufts of yellow feathers on the sides of their head. And they occur, there's close to 1 million of them here in the fall. The whole lake is just peppered with little black bodies.
Really?
And they just feed here for a month or two, then they go down to Baja California, to Mexico for the winter.
Okay.
And another migrant that we are just starting to see is the phalarope with a PH. And they are a migrant that nests up in Canada, in Washington State. They come down to Mono Lake, and they're just a small little bird. And they're here for about 6 weeks, and in that time, they double their body weight from 1 ounce to 2 ounces. They molt all their feathers, grow new feathers, and have enough energy to fly 2,000 miles nonstop to Bolivia and Peru for the winter.
Really?
So it's just, that gives you an idea of just how rich of a food source this is, for them to be able to do all that.
So this lake really is a major stop, plays a major role in the lives of a lot of birds.
It's like a great big gas station for birds that they come by and fill up and go on their way. Some of them only stay a few days, some of them stay for months, some of them stay all year.
Now, this is something that's going to be fun. What are we doing now? Or what are they doing now? Because we're not doing it.
Yeah, they're going to go swimming in Mono Lake. Yeah, they're going to head out there and feel the briny water around them and the shrimp swimming about them, and have their feet float up to the surface. And
does that sound pretty exciting to you?
Yeah!
Now, has anybody been swimming in Mono Lake before?
No!
So this is going to be the first. What do you think it's going to feel like?
I don't know.
Okay, so we're going to try it. What do you think it's going to feel like?
Slimy.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. Okay, are we ready?
Yeah!
Everybody's ready? Okay. 1, 2, 3, go! Oh boy, swimming in Mono Lake. Now, is this something that you don't really see this very often, do you?
No, a lot of people don't think you can swim in it. They look at the flies and the shrimp, and they don't think it's like a yuck, I don't want to go swimming in it. It usually takes getting in the first time there to realize that there's no swimming experience quite like it.
It is so quiet out here in the morning.
Well, that's why I brought you out here. For one thing,
If we came out a little later, we may have to contend with all of the wind coming up and the waves, and it can be pretty rough out here in a canoe. But it's one of the most beautiful times of day out here. Mono Lake's a place that you can't just show up and appreciate necessarily on a single visit. If you come out in the noonday sun and walk down to the shore from your car, you probably aren't going to get the feeling for the place that a lot of us have that live here all year round. Get to see the lake at sunrise or sunset, or camp out on the shore on a full moon.
We ended our visit to Mono Lake by getting up at sunrise, getting in a canoe, and paddling across its glassy waters. Our guide was John Kane, a staff member of the Mono Lake Committee, a nonprofit citizens group dedicated to saving this beautiful place.
For years, I think most people have just driven right by Mono Lake because we'd all been programmed that it wasn't a place worth stopping. And I think that's a big part of what the Mono Lake Committee has done, is educated people about how beautiful Mono Lake is and the importance of Mono Lake.
Yeah, because on one level, I mean, technically speaking, it's just a big salty lake, you know, without much life around it.
I think that's what you see if you drive down 395, and or even if you just look at the lake from the town of Lee Vining. But you come down and you start seeing the life, and for me, the life I see in the lake, working to restore the lake, I try to imagine what it was like historically. Great creeks, great streams feeding the lake with vast wetlands and millions of waterfowl coming. Certainly hundreds of thousands, and up to 1 million would come every year, ducks and geese. And I think of the level of the lake being 40 feet higher. And I think it's a beautiful place now on all levels. But when I think back to what it was like, I sort of feel like I missed out. It's a unique ecosystem. And if I could never see Mono Lake again, I would always be much more comfortable knowing that it could live on forever. It's been here for 1 million years. It's probably the oldest lake in North America. People need to come and give Mono Lake a chance. I can understand how some people may think that it's not what they expected to see when they come to a lake. Most people expect to see something like Lake Tahoe with trees all around it. But Mono Lake is unique, and you have to look into its waters. You have to see the reflection of sunsets.
You have to feel what this place is all about. It's very special.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this adventure. And as we end this adventure, we're back in the city. In fact, right now we are in the middle of the largest city in California. Welcome to LA. That's Wilshire Boulevard out there. And if you come over here and look over the edge, we're taking a look right into part of downtown LA. That's the downtown business district, some of our skyscrapers. We should be getting a good view from where we are right now, because we are standing on the helipad of the First Interstate World Center, which has the distinction of being the tallest building west of the Mississippi. And what makes all of this so interesting is that not so far from where we are right now are some of those natural places we've just visited. Those glorious fields of California poppies, the ancient gnarled old bristlecone pine trees, the roaring waterfall in Yosemite, and that mysterious place called Mono Lake with the giant Tufa towers coming right up out of the water. All of this combined together, the big urban areas, the big cities with all their hustle and bustle, combined with the magnificent natural places that are still all over our state. All of them combined are perfect examples of California's gold. Goodbye, everybody.
morning at dawning, birdies sing and everything. Our sun-kissed mist says, don't be late. That's why I can hardly wait. Open up that golden gate, California, here I come.
California's Gold is sponsored by Sempra Energy, making California brighter for over 100 years.
Hi, I'm Huell Howser, and if you enjoyed this particular episode of California's Gold and would like to see it again or share it with family and friends, it's available on video cassette. Just call 1-800-266-5727 and we'll send it to you right away.